Really? Okay, so this one I'll leave it for you. Thank you for watching. I would invite the filmmakers to join us here on stage.
Yes.
I'll sit there. Thank you for sharing with us your films. 3 great films. Before really going ahead with the question and the discussion, I would really like to invite you to briefly introduce yourselves and maybe tell us a little bit about your motivation and intentions to make those films, right? Maybe you can start with Anna, since her film was here. But again, thank you for sharing with us your films.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Anna. I'm a PhD student at Humboldt University. And I did this film as part of my PhD project, sort of a side project. It wasn't really, I didn't really know I was going to make a film until I was there and I had my camera. And I wasn't really sure of the format, but I just knew that the last thing I wanted to do was to reproduce some new colonial idea of mining. And I feel like being a European white researcher came with a responsibility when doing filmmaking in Africa. And so I was very concerned with, I mean, there's a lot of mining stories out there, artisanal mining that has to do with child labor, with blood diamonds, with all these hazards that are part of artisanal small-scale mining. And it's a huge issue, of course, but it wasn't really what I experienced when I actually talked to the miners, and their view on it was quite different from what you hear from NGOs and policymakers in Europe. So I got very interested in trying to explore mining from their perspectives. And then I met Robert and Raphael, who were just on board and who were also miners and just loved doing this sort of interviewing and guiding us around. And yeah, suddenly it came to be like a small film out of it. So yeah, that was a bit about my journey.
Great, thank you. Maybe we can go ahead with the toprak vessel. We have 3 filmmakers, so.
So much. I will come to you. So we are Silja, Sabrina, and Kathrin, and that's Michael, the little boy over there. And yeah, we all together, we studied visual anthropology at LMU in Munich. And yeah, so we went to Istanbul to make our film, to the Bostans, which are like historical market gardens in Istanbul. And our plan was like to film the gardeners there and how they interact with their environment, like with earth and water, and how they shape like their garden and produce food, and also like what kind of like irrigation techniques they use. And maybe you want to say a bit more.
Yeah, it was also part of a workshop. Like the 2 of them have been in the Bostons already for the workshop and got to know them already. So that was also a little bit an approach to, like nowadays there are a lot of urban gardening projects, but these ones aren't. These ones are historical. They have been there some of them have been there for 600 years, like this. Pretty similar. So there are some kind of urban gardening, but they aren't in another way because they have been there longer and they have always been a part of the city as well. So they aren't part of the new urban gardening projects you can find nowadays. They are also in Istanbul, like these very hip ones, and we're going to do a community around it. They are also a community, but they have been there for longer. And we wanted to show that also this is happening in a big metropolis like Istanbul. So that was an important part for us as well, to show the historical approach as well.
Thank you. Raphael, maybe we can.
Yes, hello. My name is Raphael, and we made this film Alleingang, Going Alone. Yeah, I live in Berlin, and this is also where we made this film. I studied communication science, actually, something completely different, and then documentary directing at Filmarche. It's a self-organized film school in Berlin. And I think the topic of death and dying and mourning, it's already in my mind for some years. It somehow really fascinated me, and I thought, okay, wow, I don't know a lot about it, and I started research. I went with some funeral institutions. It was the first time in my life I saw also like dead bodies, and I was with some protesters on for a self-determined mourning culture. So there's a lot going on also in Berlin, and it was a long time I didn't know really like what I want to make my film about. I know, okay, I'm fascinated by this topic, and I want to make a film about it because this is what I do usually when I'm fascinated. But it took maybe like 2 years until I got there and I found Bernd, the protagonist. And when I met him, I think, I was immediately quite sure that I want to make a film about him, because in his person, but also in this whole topic of state burials, I think there was a lot of things that really interested me about death and dying, like this kind of, that it's becoming an act of administration, that it's becoming something economic in our society, that there's like a lack of rituals and a lack of visibility also, that this is like not taking place in the center of society, but it's like somehow pushed aside, and all of this, I think it's quite visible in this topic of these state burials that are happening in Berlin, and almost 10% of all Berliners are buried like this, actually.
Awesome, thank you. So I'll go ahead with my first question to Anna. So I'll just always start with Anna somehow, since her film went first. So my question would be, how did you build rapport with Raphael and Robert? How much time maybe did you know them for? And also regarding the questions they were asking to their fellow minors, so how were the question created? Did they choose the question, or were they created mainly by you? So I would really love you to elaborate more about the work, the collaborative work you did on the film.
Thanks. So I met Raphael and Robert maybe a few months before and started hanging out with them, talking with them, doing a lot of interviews with them. I didn't direct the questions, however, because we already done interviews with them and they knew what I was interested in and they knew my questions. So some of them were also questions that I had asked them previously. But others were some that they came up with along the way, especially like the follow-up questions that they were asking. But I didn't really direct them. I mean, sometimes if we had talked a lot about the challenges, I would maybe say, maybe we could also talk a little bit about the hopes or something else. But I tried to stay out of it as much as possible. Also, I was filming during and my Swahili is rather limited, so I didn't have any idea what we were actually talking about doing. It was only in the editing process when I started translating it. So I tried to keep it as open as possible, but of course we were also influenced by each other and my work and so on.
Thank you. My question would be for Toprak Vesu, for the two filmmakers. So I feel that the protagonist really in your film was like the garden, the Bostanj garden, and like focusing on like the human and non-human beings there and so on. So my question would be also regarding the rapport, but the rapport with the space, the rapport with the garden. So like, how did it work? How much time did you spend there? What kind of methodologies did you follow maybe during your research? Also, another question with that would be, how did it happen that three of you came together for this project, and how did you manage really to work together in order to produce the film with three different perspectives somehow and three different people? So I would really love you to elaborate about it as well.
So maybe I start with the first question. So I think we were there like around 5 weeks or 6 weeks. It was like in August and September 2019. And before that, Sabrina and we came already in May for 1 week to get to know the people. Like during workshop there, we met like different urban farmers and gardeners in different spots. And in the end, we like decided to mainly film and this historical market gardens. And then we were there like for 5-6 weeks, and we were like actually hanging out a lot with the people there, and drinking tea with them, eating with them, and in the meantime, like we also were filming, and like we did it like within the 5 weeks, and it was all like really spontaneously. Like at first we made like plans when to film what, but in the end it was all like very spontaneous, and we just saw like how the gardeners were working there, and then we just kind of did it like whatever happens right now, we just have to react to it and film. Do you have something to add?
Also for the process together, I think it's a little, it also was super spontaneously actually. We planned on having different roles every day. So one person will do like the camera work, one will be the director for each day. But we realized that it's not our flow and that it actually hinders us in working with the garden and with the gardeners. So we basically just decided on the spot who wants to do what right now and who goes where right now. And it also started pretty quickly that the gardeners came to us and said, for example, when you see this vehicle going around the wall, they came to us and said, hey, we're going to do that now. Are you going to join us? And we're like, yeah, sure. Wait a second. We're already starting. We're like, can you wait a second? We have to build everything up first. So it started to be a really nice symbiosis between all of us, like the gardeners and us. And we also always had a fourth person with us, who is our translator, and also the person who did the music in the film. So we had a really interesting atmosphere going on. And as you also asked about that, our approaches were obviously going beyond the human. And as you said, have the garden as a protagonist. But we also were looking out for multi-species studies, as you might have realized as well. And also we wanted to like catch it with feelings and like also a sensory approach as well. Those were our background studies there as well.
Yeah, also the music you chose was really stuck in my head after watching the film the first time. I like kept singing again, so it was like very prominent and striking actually. Okay, so before we move to the questions, I have my question for Raphael, and then we can pick up some questions from the guests and like open a discussion. My question for Raphael, what struck me like in the film actually, like on the technique and so on, was the observation you made in the film was very, and your presence was very somehow seamless, you know? We could not really, we did not feel people bothered with the presence of the camera, and like people would definitely, I mean, if they're not consciously aware of the camera, I mean the viewers of the film, they would forget the presence of it somehow. So again, how did you manage to do that, and how did you manage to build this connection with the protagonist as well in the film? And I had one more question. So the other question was, let's answer this one, and maybe I remember the other one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to your first question, I think I was also surprised how many people were allowing us to film, because I mean it was quite an intimate situation, I assumed. But we were, I was just approaching people and asked, we're doing this documentary here about this place, and would it be okay if we film? And most people were okay with that. I mean, there were also some who said like no, and that was also fine. But I mean, the majority of people, was okay with it. Yeah. And about Bernd, the protagonist, I mean, he was quite open from the beginning, actually. I mean, he says also in the film that he wanted to become an actor. So finally he got his role. He's also like now, there's so much like media coverage on him and on the graveyard sometimes, and he's always like happy. And the last time I saw him, he was also like so proud and collecting all the newspaper. So I think with him, it was more the challenge to not too much like let him like do his film somehow. Sometimes he was also suggesting, okay, maybe you can put the camera there, and I'm like coming from here, from there. But I think in the end we thought it's also, I mean, I hope you also like saw it maybe that it's like his performance somehow, and it's like it's very ritualistic, and I think then it's also okay that it's like somehow he's performing a kind of play there, you know. So, but sometimes we had to calm him a bit down.
That's awesome. Also, like my other question was regarding actually that, like at certain points it felt like it was too perfect, and then it was like a mise en scène, you know. Everything is organized, and he knew what he was doing, and the camera was not there for him. So that was the question: that how did you plan it? But I guess you answered it already, basically. So thank you all for your answers. Now I would really love to hear questions from. Okay, maybe. There's the mic.
Are the statements of the selection committee available?
I think they are. What about?
Well, normally they are read out, isn't it?
I think you can ask in the entrance. Maybe they are. The statement. I'm not really aware about where they are exactly. Any other question?
Hi, I have two questions for Raphael. I would like to know what was your intention using the music in different parts in the film? And also, like something was really, I don't know, it was by coincidence or I'm not sure, like the train were passing while he was doing his break. So in my mind, I feel like it is a train of life and this is your station and you leave over here. I'm not sure if it's like this was the message or something by coincidence. So I would like to know if he doing this on the purpose or, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, the music, I mean, it was a song, I mean, he had like actually one CD that he was playing all the time. He was like starting it in the morning, and then it was like on loop the whole day, and then it was finished at the end of the day. And this was the first song also of this CD, so it was like something that he used, or that was quite present in this place. And I think the decision to use it also in the end and in this like middle part where he's like cleaning the church, was just to to somehow have a little bit of break maybe and give him more space, also to get to know him like personally, and yeah, not just have the music here and there a little bit, but also give it some space to really yeah, let this track that is so central there also get its place. Yeah, something like that. And what was the other question? Yeah, sorry? The train, yes, the train. Yeah, the train was just there. We didn't plan it. But of course, I think it's, yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting visually and also telling a lot about this, yeah, I mean, this graveyard and where the people who die alone are buried. But I think in the end, we had even like too many shots where the S-Bahn, the train was there, and it was like hard because we thought, okay, we cannot like show it all the time. It's also a bit like maybe boring or annoying to always have the S-Bahn, but it was just there. It was very difficult to have like shots without S-Bahn. It was like going all the time.
Thank you. We have another question on the back. Yeah, in the back.
Well, hello. My questions will be to the filmmakers of Toprak and Su. And I would like to ask about, because this agriculture, since I'm from Turkey and I'm living in Istanbul, this place has kind of like has a political aspect. For example, when you maybe you took a bird's eye, it may be one of the places that only left green in Istanbul. And there was like a protest, maybe, you know, Gezi. It was 13 years ago, and people were like defending green, and there was a lot of governmental policies of urbanization. And in a way, after Gezi, people were kind of like reacting through agriculture. And there was this certain aspect, political aspect of defending the green. Do you want to, like, and Istanbul is now very crowded and like crooked urbanization and political policies are very criticizing. And maybe what was your intention, or do you want to include this contrast between the rest of the city and the place which is green, Yedikule Bostans?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for mentioning that. Yeah, this is actually something that you really cannot see in this film. And this is also something that we're a little bit struggling with, because at first we actually wanted to also do something about like the political aspect, because like also the gardeners in the film, they were like fighting to stay at the place, and it was like also once about to like to be destroyed, but like kind of they went like to Ankara and somehow got some kind of basic rights to stay there, but it's always like not so sure like if they will be able to stay there. But for now, I mean, they are there. And like about the other gardens, I mean, a lot of them have been destroyed, like also close to there. And we actually also wanted to film like in another historical market garden, but like we started to film there, but in the end, like the gardener, he was not comfortable with it also because of the political aspect. And yeah, so in the end, I mean, we also have like some interviews with Dursun, like one of the main gardeners, and like telling us all about it. But yeah, because I don't know, like also because we wanted in the end to kind of focus more on like the human environment relationship, and we saw like the way we made the film this way, it wouldn't have fit so well. And another thing was also like having like this political aspect in, maybe would not be able to show the film in Istanbul. as well, because it would be seen political and you cannot show it. It was like shown at a photo film festival in Istanbul, was like an online festival, and yeah, we were taken for that. I'm not sure if that would have happened with all the politics. I don't know. Do you have something? Yeah.
Thank you very much for all your answers. We would have loved to have more questions, but due to the time restriction, and we have another film that's a web actually exhibition in almost less than 10 minutes, so we need to wrap up this discussion. So thank you all for sharing with us your films and for being here. Also, this is the first discussion where all the filmmakers are present, so so yay, that's great. And I'll give you your certificate, actually. The gift certificate. Thank you for being here. And for all the others, see you in less than 10 minutes. Thank you. Here? Yeah, it's here. It will take place in the same room, exactly. It starts at 1, so it's less than 10. It's 6 more minutes until it starts. I think, I'm not sure because it's an online exhibition, so it depends on how much I think 30 minutes or more. Let's see. $30 minutes. Okay, so it will take 30 minutes.
Well done.
It was